Hey, before we go any further, if this kind of content speaks to your soul, please take 2 seconds right now and hit that like button and subscribe. It genuinely helps more people find these teachings, and that matters more than you know. Okay, now let's begin. Imagine you've been carrying a heavy backpack your whole life. Not a small one, a massive one, stuffed full of worries, old memories, things people said to you, things you said to yourself late at night when nobody was listening. And you've been walking with this thing on your back for so long that you forgot you were even carrying it. You think the weight is just you. You think that's just how life feels. What if I told you, tonight, right now, that you can set it down? That's what we're going to talk about. Not some complicated philosophy you need a degree to understand. Not some practice that takes 20 years in a mountain monastery. Just this one quiet, powerful truth that the Buddha discovered sitting under a tree a very long time ago. A truth so simple, it almost sounds too good to be true. You are already whole, not broken, not a work in progress, not someone who needs to be fixed or improved before they deserve peace. Whole, right now, exactly as you are. I know that might be hard to believe. Most of us have spent our entire lives being told the opposite, that we need to do more, be more, achieve more, before we get to feel okay, before we get to rest. But the ancient teachers saw something different, and tonight I want to share that with you. Settle in, get comfortable, and let's walk through this together. There's an old story about a young monk who could not find peace. From the outside, his life looked perfect. He woke up early, meditated, swept the courtyard, chanted prayers with the others. Everything looked calm and ordered. But inside, a question was burning him alive. What am I really? Not his name, not his role, not the things he'd done or failed to do. Something deeper, something that showed up in the quiet moments between one breath and the next. So one morning before sunrise, he packed a small bag and started walking. He'd heard about a monastery far away, a strange, quiet place where people who were tired of easy answers sometimes found their way. The journey was hard. He climbed through mountain passes where the air was thin. He slept under trees. He ate whatever kind strangers offered him. And with every step, the question he was carrying felt both heavier and lighter at the same time. When he finally arrived, the place was smaller than he expected. Tucked into a hillside, half hidden by old trees. It looked like it had grown there naturally. Moss covered the stones. The gate was wide open. An old monk with kind eyes and a deeply lined face greeted him. "Welcome," the old monk said simply. "You've come a long way." And before the young monk could even be polite, the question he'd been carrying for years came rushing out. "Please, what is a monk? What are we really?" The old monk looked at him for a long moment, not with judgment, not with amusement, with the kind of attention you give to something you take very seriously. Then he asked the strangest thing. "Do you mean in the daytime or at night?" The young monk didn't know what to make of that. The old monk smiled and gestured for him to sit. They sat on a stone bench under a bare plum tree. The air was cool and still. "During the day," the old monk began, "a monk is contracted, behind these walls, dressed in robes, doing small ordinary things, sweeping, sitting, eating rice. From the outside it all looks contained, limited, small. This is the body most people think is real." "And at night?" the young monk asked. The old monk's eyes changed. They grew softer and wider, like he was looking at something very far away and very close at the same time. "At night," he said, "a monk expands. The walls cannot hold what a monk truly is. At night, the monk moves through the whole world, touches the stars, becomes as vast as the sky itself." Part of the young monk wanted to dismiss this. Just pretty words, he thought. The old monk seemed to sense it. "You think the daytime monk is the real one," he said gently. "The one with the broom and the aching knees, and that what I describe at night is just a nice idea." The young monk nodded, a little embarrassed. "That," said the old monk, is the difference between your monastery and ours. You start from the contracted state and assume it is real. We start from the other end. We start from the vast, expanded nature. That is what we consider most real. And the small, contracted daytime body, he paused, we call that the body of fear. The body of fear. Sit with that for a second, not as something harsh, as something honest, because most of us, if we're real with ourselves, live a lot of our lives in some form of contraction. We hold ourselves in, we tighten around our worries, we make ourselves smaller because smaller feels safer. We pull in our wings without even realizing we have wings, and it happens so quietly. There's no dramatic moment where you decide to become small. It just builds up, slowly, like dust on a window. You get a little guarded after someone hurts you, a little more careful after another disappointment, and after a while the guardedness feels like just your personality, your nature. You forget there was ever anything else. But here's what that old monastery understood, and what the Buddha himself taught. The contracted state is real, yes, but it is not the whole of what you are, not even close. The Buddha said that within every single person there is a nature that is vast, luminous, and free. He called it our original nature. Not something you need to create, not something you need to earn, something you only need to remember, to uncover. He compared it to the moon on a cloudy night. The clouds move across it. You think the moon has disappeared, but the moon was there the whole time, full and bright and completely whole, just waiting for the clouds to pass. That's you. The clouds don't diminish the moon, they just pass through. And here is where this teaching gets really practical, really intimate, really close to home, because expansion and contraction are not just ideas, they're the rhythm of your actual body, your actual life. You've been doing it since the day you were born. You're doing it right now. Notice the breath, if you like. Don't try to change it. Don't make it more spiritual or more calm. Just notice it as it is. The body opens. Air flows in. There's a moment of fullness, gentle, like a sail catching wind. Then the body softens, releases, the breath flows out. A moment of quiet return. And then it begins again. Opening, closing, expanding, contracting, over and over, without effort, without instruction. Like the tide answering the pull of the moon. You did not plan that breath. You did not send a memo to your lungs, and yet it happened perfectly. There is a kind of ancient intelligence in this rhythm, older than any thought, older than any worry, that has been keeping you alive since the very beginning, asking absolutely nothing in return. This rhythm is not only in the breath, it's in everything. Sometimes your mind is wide open, curious, generous, spacious, light, and sometimes it draws in tight, caught on a worry, spinning in small circles. Both are natural, both are part of the rhythm. The heart, too. Sometimes it feels enormous, capable of holding the whole world. A moment of tenderness so wide you could cry, watching someone you love, hearing a song that somehow knows you, seeing the last golden light of the afternoon fall soft on everything it touches. And sometimes the heart feels small and guarded. A sharp word, an old memory that still stings, a fear that has no name. The heart draws its curtains and waits. This is the rhythm. Neither state is wrong. Both belong. The Buddha compared the mind to the sky. Clouds pass through it. Storms arise. Sometimes it stays dark for a long while, but the sky itself is never damaged by what passes through it. It stays vast, open, clear. The contractions don't diminish what you are. They are simply weather passing through. Now, there is something incredibly freeing about this, because if contraction is not a failure, if it's just one half of a natural rhythm, then we can stop fighting it. We can stop believing we're supposed to be happy all the time, open all the time, thriving all the time. That's not how life works. That's not how anything in nature works. A flower doesn't bloom in winter and feel ashamed. It rests, it contracts, it waits, and when the time is right, it opens again. There's a story about a restless young man who climbed a narrow staircase to visit an old teacher in a small room above a busy street. The room was plain, a few cushions, some incense burning in the corner, the sounds of a city drifting up through open windows. The young man sat down, asked a few quick questions about peace and the nature of the self, and then stood up and left. The whole visit was maybe 15 minutes. He wandered off into the city and didn't come back. That evening, one of the teacher's regular students raised a concern. That young man who came today, he didn't seem very serious. He asked his questions and left, like he was sampling food at a market stall. Does he have any hope? The old teacher leaned back against the wall and laughed, a full, warm, unhurried laugh. Hope for him, the teacher said, still smiling. Oh, it's far too late for that. The students looked at each other, confused. What I mean, the teacher continued, is that the fact he climbed those stairs at all, the fact that he sat down and asked even one question about the nature of his life, that is enough. It means something in him, something deeper than his restlessness has begun to stir. A part of him that knows who he truly is has started to wake up. He looked around the room. Think about it this way. When a person is sleeping very deeply, they don't ask questions. They don't seek. They don't climb stairs to sit in strange small rooms and wonder about the meaning of things. The very fact that a question arises, any question, even a clumsy one, means the dreamer has begun to stir. And then his voice grew even gentler. Once that stirring begins, he said, it cannot be undone. Even if he goes out and forgets, even if he spends years chasing other things, it doesn't matter. The seed has been planted. And a seed, once it finds the soil, knows only one direction. This is the gentlest teaching in all of Buddhism, and the one most of us desperately need to hear. Your awakening is not something that depends on your perfection. It depends only on your willingness to show up, again and again, even imperfectly, to keep returning, to keep making space. The seed is in the ground, and it is doing what seeds do, whether you watch it or not. You cannot squander what is already planted in you. Now let's talk about something a little deeper, something that can feel unsettling at first but turns out to be one of the most liberating discoveries of your life. When you start paying close attention to your inner experience, really close attention, the things that seemed solid and settled start to shift. A single breath that used to feel like one event reveals itself as a whole symphony of tiny sensations. The first cool trace of air at the nose, the gentle lift of the chest, the soft pause at the top, the warmth of the exhale, the quiet settling. One breath, and inside it 100 small beautiful things happening all at once. The body, which used to feel like one solid object, reveals itself as a constantly changing field of sensation. Warmth here, a tingle there, a pulse, a hum you never noticed, like a tuning fork held against your chest. What felt like a wall of stone turns out to be more like a cloud of fireflies, flickering, dancing, none of them fixed, all of them alive. Even thoughts, those heavy, important, permanent-seeming things, begin to show their true nature. A worry that felt like a boulder turns out to be more like a wisp of smoke. A memory that seems so vivid is really a collage of fragments, already dissolving as you look at it, like frost in the first warmth of morning sun. This is what the old teachers meant by impermanence. Everything is moving. Everything is more like music than like stone. And music, as you know, is not lesser because it moves. That movement is what makes it beautiful. Here's something else worth sitting with. A student once came to a teacher and said, "Teacher, I've been watching my breath like you told me, and I've noticed something strange. The breath seems to breathe itself. I sit, I watch, but the more I look, the more I realize I'm not doing it at all. It just happens." The teacher nodded like the student had just said water was wet. "And this troubles you?" she asked. "Yes," the student said. "Because if I'm not breathing the breath, then who is? What am I actually in charge of?" The teacher was quiet for a moment. Outside, through the open window, a river moved past, slow and steady, the sound it had been making for 1,000 years. "The thoughts that came this morning," the teacher said gently. "The worries, the memories, the little pictures that floated through your mind. Did you choose those?" The student paused. "They just came. The feelings, the moments of calm, the flickers of restlessness, that brief sadness that passed through. I didn't invite those either. So," the teacher said softly, "the breath breathed itself, the thought themselves, the feelings arose and passed on their own. All of it happened perfectly, beautifully, without you needing to manage any of it." She leaned forward, voice even quieter. "You asked who is in charge. The answer is no one. No one is directing this. No one needs to. And that is perhaps the most wonderful thing you will ever discover, because it means the part of you that has been trying so hard to hold everything together, the manager, the planner, the one who never rests, that part can finally put down its work, not because the work is finished, but because it was never needed in the first place. You can truly relax, not just on the surface, all the way down. You can stop gripping the steering wheel of your life so tightly, your knuckles white, your jaw clenched, your shoulders up around your ears, and discover that the road itself knows where it's going, that it has always known, that your grip was never what kept you safe, and now the most tender part of everything we've explored tonight. There's a difference between the open sky-like spaciousness the ancient teachers described, vast, luminous, peaceful, able to hold everything, and the hollow emptiness that comes from carrying, for a very long time, the quiet feeling that you are not quite enough, that something in you is missing, that other people have a worthiness or a belonging that you somehow weren't given. The first kind is freedom. The second is a wound wearing the clothing of wisdom. And here is what the ancient teachers discovered. Every difficult feeling, when it is truly met with compassion, contains its opposite. When deep loneliness is finally allowed to tell its story, when it is held the way you hold something precious and fragile. Slowly, gently, it begins to change, not into happiness exactly, but into something more like solitude. A quiet, peaceful sense of being here by yourself, but not abandoned. And within that solitude, strangely, connection begins to arise. The loneliness was never the deepest truth. It was a shell, and inside the shell, waiting all this time, was belonging. Or consider the pattern of trying too hard, pushing, striving, the kind of effort that comes not from genuine strength, but from a deep, unspoken fear that if you stop, everything falls apart, that you have to earn your right to be here. When this pattern is met with patience, when someone finally says, "You've been working so hard, you can stop now. You are safe," something remarkable emerges. Beneath the pushing, beneath all the proving, there is a quieter kind of strength. It has nothing to do with effort. It's more like the strength of a mountain. It doesn't try to be strong. It simply is. Patient, steady, solid, because remaining is its nature. This is your natural strength. It was here before you started trying. It doesn't need approval. It doesn't need to announce itself. It simply knows in its bones, without saying a word, "I am here. I belong here." That is enough. There was a great spiritual teacher who was known throughout his tradition for his extraordinary compassion. When people came to sit with him, they didn't experience something cosmic or overwhelming. They experienced something far simpler and far more extraordinary. When you sat in front of him and spoke, he listened, really listened, not politely, not with one ear while the other was already somewhere else, with his whole being. As though in that moment there was no one else in the world, as though your small, ordinary life, with all its tangled hopes and familiar worries, was the very thing he'd been waiting his whole life to hear about. 1,000 arms, and every single one of them reaching toward you. That is what intimacy looks like at its deepest, not a withdrawal from the particular into the universal, but the opposite, a bringing of all that vastness, all that spaciousness, all that boundless compassion into the single, specific, unrepeatable moment of one person truly seeing another. Wisdom tells me I am nothing. Love tells me I am everything. Between these two, my life moves. You are not separate from the vastness. You are made of it. And the vastness is not some cold, abstract thing. It pours itself into the specific, into one child, one garden, one creaking step you keep meaning to fix, but never do, and loses nothing. It gains everything. This is what wholeness really looks like. Not a choice between transcendence and tenderness. Not a decision to be either the sky or the single blade of grass, but the discovery that you are both, that you have always been both. And so as this evening settles and the body grows heavy and the thoughts begin to soften like embers in a fire that has burned long and well, consider this. Tomorrow you will wake up, you will open your eyes, you will feel the first moment of the new day arrive quietly, without ceremony, as ordinary as anything in the world. Light coming through a window, the feeling of sheets, the slow return of the mind from wherever it went. And in that moment, before the thinking starts, before the planning begins, before the day assembles itself around you, there will be a small quiet space, a breath, a pause, a flicker of awareness, brief and bright, in which you are simply here, not doing, not deciding, not becoming, just being, just awake, just arrived. That is the teaching. All of it, everything we've walked through tonight lives inside that single pause. All the vastness and all the tenderness, all the emptiness and all the love. You are whole. You have always been whole. And the quiet, ordinary life you are living right now, this breath, this body, this moment, is the beautiful, undeniable proof. If something here spoke to you tonight, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Buddhism Focus for more videos like this. It helps more people find their way to these teachings, and that's really the whole point. Sleep well, you are already home.